What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I wanted to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, NVIDIA, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down some very important data that's coming out that's going to cause some high volatility, what's happening with earnings that just came out, and also some very big news involving Tesla, as Tesla's Berlin Gigafactory is halting production because of some very, very big incidents. But before I break down all this information, before I talk about all of this is affecting Tesla, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo and deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed 15 free stocks, and this offer ends very, very soon. Anyways, when it comes to Tesla, we got this very, very aggressive sell-off yesterday, which is continuing into today, as Tesla's approaching this 182 support. This is the support that aligns right over here, which is where we had this previous bounce. So the question is, can Tesla try to get a bounce from here, or is Tesla going to continue to fall? This is going to depend on how we end up holding 182, if we could hold this or not. And also, it's going to happen to be dependent on like the market, the data, and also the news that just came out. So I'm going to break down this data, talk about something very important that's coming out, talk about why I think there's going to be a spike in volatility at 10 a.m., and then what this means for Tesla as well moving forward. So for today, I want to remind you all, today is Tuesday, March 5th, 2024. Okay, at 9:45 a.m. today, 15 minutes after the market opens, we have the S&P Global Composite PMI report coming out. So watch for volatility 15 minutes after the market opens. Then at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the ISM data. So we have the new orders, employment, and prices data coming out. These are all very important for understanding how strong our economy is and current sentiment as we have economic optimism coming out. So watch for high volatility at this time, especially the ISM services like new orders. A lot of these pieces of data are very forward looking, and we'll see what happens with all of them coming out. Then at 12 o'clock p.m., we have Barr giving a speech alongside at 3:30 p.m. So we'll see what all of this causes. But don't forget, at 10 a.m., we're going to be looking to see some big moves, and it's going to be very, very important. So we'll see what happens. It's going to cause high volatility. For earnings that just came out, I'm going to be really quick with this. NEO ended up announcing its earnings. When it comes to their revenue, they actually beat expectations as they got about $2.4 billion USD. And then it's about, the loss was not as bad as expected. It was about 39 cents, which is not as bad as what their analysts were expecting. However, their guidance was not as strong. Their forward outlook was only about 31 to 33,000 units to be delivered, which is not the best of news. And it wasn't really enough to help this share price grow or push. So the share price is still down despite this data coming out. So a little bit negative for NEO. For targets, the shares popped despite their lackluster sales forecast, and that is technically true. If you look at the numbers right over here, they beat on EPS, they beat on revenue, which is good for targets. Net income was also really, really good, a nice increase. But the issue is their forecasts were not as strong as what many people were expecting, but that wasn't really enough to stop it. We still saw some nice net income, nice overall growth in the previous quarter, and good earnings. That excuse me, that ended up offsetting everything as the share price continued to push despite that. Now, a couple of pieces of news before I break down Tesla. The market is retreating a little bit as I predicted for the NASDAQ Composite S&P 500 SPY ETF. We're seeing the market coming down just a bit this morning, exactly as we predicted, and we're going to be watching to see what the reaction is as time goes on. On top of this, targets ended up not having the best of guidance, a little bit weaker sales than expected, but they still ended up popping thanks to good stuff. I just showed you guys that. Spirit Airlines and JetBlue are ending their agreements to merge, setting regulatory hurdles. That's making some headlines. Ford ended up seeing a big leap in U.S. sales last month compared to February because they ended up seeing a nice increase in sales for their hybrids and EVs, which is good news for them. We saw an 81% growth jump in their EV sales and a 32% increase in hybrid models, which is not bad whatsoever. So that's good for Ford so far. There is some strength in the EV sector in the US, but things were not looking the same in China. And when it comes to Bitcoin, it's edging closer to all-time highs. We're seeing a lot of cryptos like Doge and all these others just pushing, so it's great news for them. Now, when it comes to Tesla, let's now talk about Tesla. Unfortunately, Tesla's Berlin plant has halted production after suspected arson attack at nearby substation. Not the best of news. It may have been an attack, and Tesla was not immediately available to comment on this. This comes as expansion plans for Germany have come up against some fierce opposition, so this is very suspicious. and it just isn't the greatest piece of news you want to hear moving forward. So many people believe that there was an attack that happened. It was an arson attack, and as a result of this, this caused shares to drop quite a bit. And fortunately, I didn't really see too much news about anyone getting hurt, and that's great to hear. But there are a lot of activists. There's a lot of opposition against Tesla in Germany. Not saying it was them who were responsible. It's just that that is something that goes on. So things like this are not completely out of the ordinary. This is making like all the headlines right now. We're seeing this all over the place, and this is all very, very important. This is very important with this happening, with this incident, and with Tesla having to just essentially shut down things for their the safety of their employees, for the safety of the factories, and to be very careful. There's not really much that could be said about that. It is what it is. I'll talk more about this later on. We actually have about 12,500 new Teslas insured in China last week, so a little increase in March. That's a slight improvement, but February's numbers are still relatively weak and it's still affecting Tesla. So anyways, let's talk about the chart now, what's happening with all these charts. Tesla's at support at 182. This is where we bounced off of last time. So we'll see if we hold this. If we lose 182, watch 180, 178, and 175. Watch 184, 186, and 188 as resistance. In my opinion, Tesla is still at this support right here. And we're going to be watching to see if this thing can try to hold 182. We'll see how well it holds here. So watch this very, very carefully. The share price is dropping because of the bad news, but we're at some key support. And I think that's the most important thing is going to be this economic data that's coming out. Does this help the whole market bounce or not? Could Tesla try to bounce from here and try to get back above 184? If we get back above it, there's going to be some hope for it. We're seeing some buyers defending it, so we'll see if Tesla can try to get back above 184 as it's at support. It already dropped pretty hard, so we'll see if buyers defend it. And if we end up losing it after the data comes out, we could see a bigger drop all the way down to 180, if not 175. So I think that we're going to see some buyers defend Tesla. It might actually pop a little bit right here. There is a risk of it coming back down later, but then we'll see if the data causes a bigger drop or not. So look for a little attempt by Tesla to try to push up. I think it's going to attempt to push a little bit, and it could end up failing intraday, so just be very careful. But look for that little push for the time being. In my video from yesterday, I said the market may have some downside coming. And if you look at the market, everything is down. SPY is down, the pre-market QQQ is down. Everything is down except for like NVIDIA. I did say NVIDIA could push more. It's kind of green. And also for Coinbase. But this is what we were expecting, and we're going to be watching this all very carefully. So watch and see how Tesla holds up. I think it's going to pop a little bit, then we'll see if it ends up dropping again. It might drop back down, and then we'll see how well it holds from there. Now for SPY, I just want to mention that SPY right now, hold on, SPY is looking a little bit weaker. We're approaching this 510 support exactly as predicted, but for us to turn bearish, we have to lose 510 and continue to sink down to this imbalance at 509. Then we also have to sink all the way back down to 508. So we broke this low right here, which is a sign of weakness, and we are sinking exactly as predicted. But watch and see what the data causes. When we open, there might be a little pop that comes back up to like this resistance up here. But then we could come back down, and we'll see if we end up losing this support. If we do lose this because of the data, after all the data comes out, if we're continuing to sink, then we're going to turn a lot more bearish. We're going to be expecting a bigger drop. So watch and see how SPY performance is looking relatively weak. It's barely holding 510 right now, so it's still at support. So we'll have to see how it goes. But look for a little pop and drop on SPY. If we lose 510, a bigger drop is coming. So watch for that very, very carefully. Onto the QQQ. The QQQ is also selling off quite a bit. I wanted to call this one out. This is important because there's some weakness on the chart. We're barely holding this like 440 area. It actually likes 440.5, so I'm going to actually redraw this. But it's very close to this 440 support. Now, the issue with the QQQ is there's a lot of weakness being shown at this level, and we'll have to see how well we could hold around 440. So if we end up losing 440 right here, this 440 support, a bigger drop is going to be coming all the way down to 438. If we hold 440, we could rebound to 442 plus, then 443.5 and higher levels. Now, the QQQ is on this downtrend, so it's looking relatively weak. We might see some buyers defend it to get it to retest resistance, but there's always a risk of it coming back down because of more bad data. But we have to see what the big reaction is going to be once all this data comes out at 10 a.m. So look and see if we get a little pump and then a drop lower, or if we just drop from here. I think it might rebound a little bit and then make its way back down. And then we'll see if we lose the support. If we lose 440, a bigger drop is coming. We're just holding the support right here, which is where the breakout area is. There is a risk of that happening, but I want to watch and see for confirmation and see what the reaction is once all this data comes out. So watch for all of that very, very carefully. All right. With that being said, if we end up losing 440, there's a risk of us coming all the way down to 438 and eventually like 436.5. So I think it might pop and drop, and then we'll see if we end up losing 440. So be very, very careful. For NVIDIA stock, in my opinion, is looking not the best. So the thing about NVIDIA is we did expect this thing to come back up like this. We have a lot of very, very tight levels on it. But as you guys could see, this thing is just not really holding up as well. And I want to say that, if anything, I would say that NVIDIA, in my opinion, is not looking the strongest because we have this high right here. We made a lower high, and we're starting to sink right here. If we continue to sink at these lower levels, there's going to be a risk of even more downside. So with this high here, we could be making a lower high, and this could start to sink lower towards like 843, 838, and there could be more downside coming, which could drag the market lower. But if we break this high, we could turn back up and retest this high up here after the data releases. As of right now, it looks like NVIDIA is starting a downtrend, came down here, established a lower high, and may continue to sink lower. So watch and see, do we end up losing 844? If we lose that, a bigger drop is coming closer to the 830s. If we break above 865, we could be pushing for 875. It looks like it may establish a lower high here and then start sinking to lower levels. So there's going to be a risk of NVIDIA dropping lower, so just be very careful. This could slow the QQQ in the market down. Also, Apple's looking kind of weak. So we came all the way down to about 171. We have this big downtrend on Apple, as you guys could see. And right now, watch resistance right here at 171.75 and then 172.5. Watch support at 171. If we lose this, a bigger drop is going to be coming to 170 and then even lower levels like this. Now, the trend is bearish. It's been sinking and sinking and sinking. It's not looking too strong, so we'll see how well Apple holds up. It's going to likely attempt to rebound a little bit, come back down, and then we'll see what happens with all this data coming out. Does the data cause Apple to retest 170 and even lose it, or does the data help Apple bounce? Right now, it's looking very weak, so just be careful, and then we'll see what happens from there. But I do believe Apple may pop and drop. We'll see if it ends up losing 171 after the data is released, but the trend is still bearish on Apple, so just be very careful. With that being said, guys, that's it for this video. Tesla's still looking kind of weak. Market is still down quite a bit. And we'll have to see how well we could hold up considering all the data that's going to be released. So watch for some high volatility at 10 a.m. And for Tesla, we'll see how well it could try to hold 182. If we do end up losing that, a bigger drop is going to be coming. 180, 178 become possibilities, 175. So there's bad news that came out. Be very, very careful on Tesla. The trend is still, the trend is still bearish on Tesla. So we'll have to see what happens after that. All right. Thank you for listening. Have a great day, guys. I'll see you guys very soon in the next one. And peace out.